Good morning, campers, and welcome to Radio Camp Half-Blood, a Percy Jackson read-along podcast. I'm B.
And I'm Zach.
And this week, we read The Battle of the Labyrinth, Chapter 15. We steal some slightly used wings.
I wish I got some slightly used wings because I just got my plane tickets to New York, and it was either a 24-hour layoff in Atlanta, or I have to go up to San Francisco for some reason, then fly to New York, and it makes less sense. So I think I'd take those Icarus wings and just fly directly to New York City.
I like how we were talking about Mindhunter before we recorded, and now you're talking about Atlanta, and I'm just imagining you.
Well, that entire show is just being on an airplane, the movie.
And they're like really ugly 70s decorated airplanes, too, with like very loud print on the seats. You know?
Yes. And today we actually had a very fun episode. I feel like this is the episode that really starts the adventure, or I guess, ends it, or what do you do in this situation? I'm so excited to talk about this one because this is one of the highlight chapters, I feel like.
Big plot twist.
Oh, yes. Did you see that coming a mile away?
I didn't, actually. I thought, okay, well, we're probably going to get into it, but yeah. For some reason, I had other theories about Quintus that were not that. They were not that.
Oh, you didn't think he was going to be Beep Boop?
For some reason, my brain didn't connect the two, and I don't know why. I kept thinking, oh, maybe Quintus is, related to an existing character. I knew there was, some sort of thing that was going to be revealed about him, but, yeah, wasn't expecting that.
It comes out of left field. Even the first time I read it, I was kind of surprised, because there isn't any, description or, foreshadowing of that stuff. Percy Jackson never says he kind of moves robotically, or there isn't any of that type of,
exactly. Yeah.
So it's, actually, it's a really good twist, because it isn't, and Quintus moved robotically, as if he was a robot, and we never saw him eat food. Things like that. There was never in the forefront.
Yeah, the only foreshadowing that you
was the
see
brand.
Is the brand, but, that I guess wasn't enough of a hint for me. That didn't, I didn't connect that in my mind. Oh, of course, an automaton. That's not really something, I don't know.
The interesting thing about this is, it goes back to Rick Riordan being a mystery writer before he wrote Percy Jackson, is he sets that clue up before you actually have that vision of the past where Quintus, or I guess Daedalus at this point, gets branded, and you'd have to put two and two together, even though they're far apart in the book. That's such a minor detail. It's great when you reread the book, because it's oh, that makes total sense now.
Is there a scene in one of the dream sequences where Daedalus gets branded?
Yes, there's when he kills his nephew.
I know it's because he kills his nephew, but I guess I don't remember that.
Because Athena pretty much brands him. Remember, at the end of that, before the dream ends, that she punishes him. She talks about branding him.
I guess I just never made that connection, which, I mean, normally I'm, okay at parsing foreshadowing, and I kind of am okay at guessing, but I really didn't get this one for some reason.
And that's what makes a good twist, and it helps with, rereadability, because now you know that factor, and it's okay, this makes sense. Also,
and then you can look for the foreshadowing.
Yes.
Yeah. So as someone who's read it before, were you able to see that as we were reading more so, that he was Daedalus?
Well, B, it's kind of hard because I already knew the twist, so I couldn't really look into foreshadowing, because I was
so the confirmation bias, you already know, so.
Well, you kind of picked up that he's a sketchy character, and I forgot that he left the camp. I know he meets them up in the workshop to reveal his master plan, but the branding and stuff, I kind of forgot about that. But then once we got to the scene with Athena, I'm oh yeah, now I remember this. This makes total sense. And once again, I was looking for those descriptor tags or things that would pretty much, I was waiting for you to say something about him being a robot, or something there's something off about Quintus that wasn't quite right, as if, what if he was Daedalus? But also you have that stigma in our heads that Daedalus is always going to be in the labyrinth. Wait a second, he can actually get out of the labyrinth? What?
Yeah, exactly. I think that prevents you from making that sort of prediction, because in your mind, he's at the center of the labyrinth.
Trapped.
Forever cursed there. So why would he be out of the labyrinth? He's trying to escape death. Yeah, so I guess it just doesn't necessarily fit with the way you're supposed to conceptualize of him. And then even the idea of him being in an automaton or whatever, the idea of him being an automaton that looked like Quintus, who looks enough like a human that it would trick people, even, and then his personality too, I guess eventually he's oh yeah, of course you're him, because Percy looks into his eyes and gets the sense that it's the same person, but like his behavior just doesn't seem the same. You know, he even, I mean, it's sort of a joke about how dumb Percy is, but he's just like, but you're not an inventor, you're a swordsman or whatever. And he's like, oh, I'm both, you know, and I think that helps separate the characters in your mind when you like conceptualize them of having different strengths. So like, oh, he's like a man of thought and invention, so he's always thinking about this kind of thing and he's good at more intellectual pursuits. And then Quintus is very much styled as, you know, someone who's very strong and
He's a fighter. Like, you don't think about like how he's an inventor.
like battle logistics and that kind of thing and sword fighting.
When you
So
have 2,000 years to like ferment, I think you can be able to kick butt really easily.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, he even sort of says, he's like, oh, I also know how to play basketball. I know how to do a lot of things. I've been alive for like thousands of years. Fair. I guess it just doesn't give you like a hint that they're the same person.
You kind of learn things when you're like, you're trapped. But I think the most brilliant thing about Daedalus is that the one thing people think he's an inventor, but when it comes with inventors is you have to have creativity. And also, how do you trick the gods? You make yourself into a robot and you hide in plain sight. You come out of the labyrinth as a person, because this is the 5th version of him. What is the best place to actually hide but in plain sight, or something that's like less obvious? My favorite joke in the Justice League animated show is someone's trying to kill Lex Luthor, and the Justice League is trying to help Lex Luthor not die, and Lex Luthor has a safe house. B, where is the least likely place that people would find Lex Luthor?
The safe house?
Yeah, what would be the safe house, or what would be the front for the safe house?
Oh, I see. Does he go to the Justice League headquarters or something?
No.
I don't know. Where?
How would you describe Lex Luthor? What is his main characteristics?
Bald? I don't know.
Yeah, he goes to a barber shop.
Does he really?
Yes, his front
oh
is
my
a
god, I was
barbershop.
joking.
He goes to a barbershop. That's brilliant.
I just said bald as a joke, but you're serious. Oh my god. Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, like he goes to like a barbershop and like he goes to a secret lair. It's like a safe house. It's great. Funny joke. Same thing with here. Like, getting back to it is that no one would suspect Daedalus coming out of the maze as Quintus, because anyone can go in the maze and come out, and all of a sudden you just have this old demigod which is also, it's really rare to have old demigods. So it's cool and crazy, and I love it. And I think Daedalus is a very fascinating character because he is like the epitome of like a gray level character where he is not an anti-hero. He's not quite a hero. He's just out for himself. And I love that about him.
Yeah, he's an interesting character. I don't even really think that the reason he was at Camp Half-Blood was because he was hiding in plain sight, because for the most part he was just hiding out in the labyrinth, and the whole idea is that like that's kind of the only way he could like escape the Furies and escape the wrath that he expected to face when he died from King Minos and from Hades and all of that. So I think it's more like, I think he even says, oh, he wanted to see the camp for himself, and then that's when...
No, it's more like he was judging like what side he should be on. Should he be on Luke's side, or should he be on Percy and Camp Half-Blood side? Which, you know what? This is like really funny because as me coming from like a debate perspective, I was on the debate team for like a hot minute, is that you're supposed to be really neutral and then you decide what point you want to come across. And that's pretty much Daedalus. Yeah, I'm going to give my string to Luke because I think he's the most sane out of all of you guys. Which is funny to think about, but I think we're getting way ahead of ourselves right now. I think we should step back, rewind, and kind of talk about what happens in this chapter, because a lot happens. I think that's the big reveal.
Yeah, the big reveal. I literally was so shocked that I worded, oh my god, like out loud, like, wow. Like I was completely blindsided, like didn't expect it at all.
Be, as the kids say, were you shooketh?
I was shooketh. I was shooked. Shooketh. My brain, it exploded. I just like couldn't. That'd be like someone saying that, I don't even know, that Annabeth was really Kronos. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it just was like, those are two different characters. I just couldn't like wrap my brain around it.
Yeah, it's a big reveal. It's one of those things that it's groundbreaking. But for the most part, I think it's such a good twist for kids, because kids, you know, some of them can figure these things out a mile away, but sometimes a good twist can make all the difference.
Apparently I can't.
No, I guess that makes a good twist, doesn't it? But this chapter kind of opens up with Percy and the gang still in the maze. Surprise, surprise. They're going through
Rachel doing her thing.
Yeah, she's using her mortal sensing eyes to look through the maze and be like, watch out, everybody. They have like a comedic moment for like there's like swinging axes, very Indiana Jones like. I was waiting for like spears and also like just flying arrows.
Oh yeah, the description, it said, Rachel seemed to know exactly where she was going. She whipped around corners and didn't even hesitate at crossroads. Once she said duck and we all crouched as a huge axe swung over our heads. Then we kept going as if nothing had happened.
I like how the second they get Rachel, everything comes magically clear. Like everything.
Yeah, apparently she could just see everything really easily. And then Annabeth is being a real pain in the butt.
I don't get this again. Once again, I feel like there's even a part in this chapter where Percy Jackson even calls her out, but he doesn't want to say the reason why. And it's to the point of where I guess as a kid, you don't want to say it, but as like an adult, just say it. If you want some advice, kids, or anyone that's listening to this, just say it. Sometimes it helps.
So he doesn't want to say that the reason Annabeth is acting that way because she's jealous because she likes him?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, he even has that conversation with Rachel, and Rachel is just like, well, don't you see why she's acting this way? And then he's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, oh my god. Then she's like, oh, boys are blind, basically. Like, how do you not see what's going on? Rachel raised her eyebrows. Are you sure you don't know? What do you mean? Boys, she muttered, totally blind.
It's funny because like Rachel is immortal and she has this ability to see through the mist, but she can also see through the BS. Heyo.
It's true. Well, it kind of is true because she's like this outside figure, so she can just like see through their dynamic and be like, okay, like it's very clear what's happening here. I don't know why you're so oblivious. I think there's a lot of themes of Percy not paying very close attention because like even later when Quintus makes the reveal, he's like, you need to like take after your mortal friend here and like look with clearer eyes or something. Like it's pretty well established that her like characterization, not just as like a mortal who can see through the maze, but just as like a person, she can kind of see through the stuff.
Here's the thing that makes me confused is that Percy Jackson's oblivious, but yet Annabeth has already kissed him like several times.
Yeah, no, I don't get that either. Is he just like trying to ignore it? Maybe? Like, I think he kind of knows to some extent.
Okay, B, as a teenage boy getting his first kiss, I believe that Percy Jackson is an idiot because no one in that mindset would be like, okay, if a girl kissed me, oh, we're gonna fall in love and we're gonna get married and I don't know, afterwards I'm gonna make my music career and become famous billionaire by 15, like stuff like that. You know what I'm talking about, right? Like kids have like short-term goals at first before they become adults, and then they'll set the long-term ahead. But even with like Rachel Elizabeth Dare, like she's there. Maybe she likes Percy, maybe not. But the most part, Percy is just so oblivious that it's almost baffling. I think that's the best word to use. It's like baffling. Dude, Annabeth has a thing for you. She's jealous. She's kissed you already several times. And now Annabeth is acting completely different. Come on, Percy. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out.
No, but he's not a rocket scientist. He's a dumb little boy.
B, even like a goldfish would be like bobbing up and down, and you're like, look to Percy, yeah, she's totally into you. What? Really?
Yeah, yeah. He's not the brightest guy. He doesn't really parse it together. It's fine. They're pretty close to the workshop when they have this conversation because she's just like, I could see the path really clearly. Like, I know you guys don't believe me, or I guess Annabeth doesn't really believe her because she's skeptical, and it's like, oh, let us right into that arena or whatever.
The one thing I love about Rick Riordan's writing, especially now, is that he has no characters that have like a Mary Sue or Gary Stu, because all of them either have problems or are oblivious or not super perfect.
Yeah, they have some sort of flaw. Yeah. Yes. I think the weird thing about Percy is like everyone treats him really great and loves him despite the fact that his flaw is that he's kind of a dum-dum. So it's like, I don't exactly know why everyone thinks he's so great, because a lot of the times he's very
charismatic.
Cogent. Yeah, that's basically it. He's pretty charismatic and he's sort of endearingly dopey, but a lot of the times you're like, why? How can you figure out these like amazing spur of the moment solutions like in a battle scenario, you know, like in the last chapter with the chains, like that. Again, to be fair, Annabeth kind of gave him a hint on that, but like he can do that kind of thing, but then like when he's trying to figure out emotion and like interpersonal relationships, he's like, I don't know.
Well, if I was gonna say something about that, I'd say that because he's a teenager and this is the first time he's feeling these feelings, maybe it's a little different. Like the first time like you kind of fell in love with somebody, I'm sure everyone was a dum-dum. You have your butterflies in your tummy. True. But even still, like Percy Jackson, his best moments are when he's not thinking. Percy Jackson should just not think and just do. at times, but he doesn't.
When he tries to think, he actually doesn't do a great job of it, so.
It's like I always think about like Jimmy Neutron. He tries to do like a brain blast, but doesn't quite work.
Yeah, no, his brain cannot blast. I like the conversation
But
he
B,
has
that's
with,
because it's made out of seaweed.
It's true, exactly. That's why. It's a seaweed blast, which sounds sort of like a weird, like, health food smoothie.
Hey B, you want to go to Jamba Juice and get some seaweed blasts? Could you give me some extra seaweed, please?
I heard it's good for you. It's good for the digestion.
Did you know seaweed is the kale of the ocean? And I want none of that.
Yeah. I just found out that the lake near my house has toxic blue-green algae, so that's fun. I was gonna go swimming this weekend.
Was this the same one with the dead body?
Yes, it's the very same one.
Who knew? So I should not, when I come over, I should not jump in that ocean.
Well, when you come over, it's gonna be October, so if you jump in the water, you'll freeze to death also.
You know what? That's a risk I'm willing to take. So if the cold water doesn't get me, the blue-green algae will. And then there'll be another body.
At least the cold will kill the blue-green algae.
I'm so sorry. Keep going, B.
Anyway, I like this conversation that Percy has with Rachel. I kind of like them sort of trying to relate to each other, and Rachel being like, so what do you do? I like to read and to draw. And he's like, I fight monsters and I don't read because I have dyslexia, is basically the kind of conversation they have.
It's a great comedic moment because Percy Jackson and Rachel don't really have too much in common, because there's that one thing you always forget about with demigods is that they're wired in such a certain way that like they don't have the same hobbies as most people, and they're almost like alienated from most mortals because their entire idea of fun is training and fighting and going on quests, whereas like Rachel is more practical.
Well, because it's like the whole world building thing of them having ADHD, so it's like they have the battle ready instincts, like all that kind of stuff, like, oh, they're not stimulated enough in a normal environment, so that's why they thrive more in like a battle scenario. That's kind of the whole premise of the way Half-Bloods work.
It's the same thing with like Harry Potter and how you have your muggles and then you have your wizards, like the Arthur Weasley, like, so fascinated with like muggle things, even though they still kind of use a lot of the same things like bathrooms and some type of electricity in cars.
It kind of sounds a lot like the stuff that I've said about demigods, that like why I wouldn't want to be a demigod, because she says, so you do this every summer, fight monsters, save the world, don't you ever get to just, you know, do normal stuff? I never really thought about it like that. The last time I'd had something like a normal life had been, well, never. Half-Bloods get used to it, I guess, or maybe not used to it, but I shifted uncomfortably. What about you? What do you do normally? Rachel shrugged. I paint. I read a lot. Okay, I thought. So far, we are scoring a 0 on the similarities chart. So they don't really relate to each other in that way.
It's funny because when we think of this conversation, I always think about in The Last Jedi, if you liked it or you hated it, there was such a funny part about that movie, which was, I think it was just poorly written, was that Luke is trying to explain to Rey like what the Force is. Like, so tell me, what is the Force to you? Pretty much, Rey's like, well, you know, I can do things, make people do things, and I can lift giant rocks. And then at the end of the movie, she makes people do things, and then she lifts a gigantic rock. And Luke's mad because he's like, that's not how the Force works.
Yeah, you can lift a gigantic rock.
Yes, you can. And then you have terrible screenplay.
It's true.
For me, I love the dynamic between Percy Jackson and Rachel because you have a demigod meeting a mortal. How would they react? Plus, Rachel's actually still kind of mysterious because every time Percy's brought up anything about Rachel's parents, she like dodges that question as if it's getting out of dodge.
Yeah, because then he says, right after that, he says, what about your family? I could sense her mental shields going up, like this was not a safe subject. Oh, they're just, you know, family. You said they wouldn't notice if you were gone. She set down her drawing stick. Wow, I'm really tired. I may sleep for a while, okay? So that's like all we basically get from that conversation. She doesn't say anything.
There's even more to that where Percy Jackson even makes an observation that she's pretending to go to sleep.
Yeah, then she lies down, closes her eyes, and he says, I got the feeling she wasn't really asleep. So she's
hiding something.
Pretend. I mean, she truly pulled like I have to go right now immediately, like putting breadsticks in her purse. Remember that meme?
Wow, B, that's vintage. I think you should get some old people discounts.
Yeah, I should have that meme appraised on the Antiques Roadshow.
B, when we hang out, we'll go to an early bird special. Will that make you feel good?
Mm-hmm.
We'll get you a bran muffin. Bran. You love bran.
Honestly, with my stomach issues, I think bran might be a good choice. I need to eat like an old person.
Grapefruit, yummy, yummy.
Oh
B.
my god, my boyfriend gave me a cardigan that 100% looks like a grandpa cardigan, like one that my grandpa literally would wear. I like walked outside with it to show my mom, and she was like, "Do you know who would have loved that sweater? Grandpa would have loved that sweater. Oh, with the pockets, he would have put some cough drops in the pockets." I'm like, oh my god, I'm turning into a grandpa at 26.
Yes, yes, B. So, what do you think is going on with Rachel's parents? I'm interested to hear your theory.
I don't know if she has parents, from what it sounds like, because she says they won't care about her. Like, is she homeless or something? Because I don't.
But she goes to a nice high school.
I feel like there's some sort of weird extenuating circumstance that they're not explaining, but I wouldn't know. Like, she has hardly said anything about her family other than they wouldn't be interested, or like they wouldn't care that she was gone. So
B, the reveal is going to be, yeah, so I'm really rich and my parents died in a mysterious fire, and for some reason this weird count keeps following me around. That's why I wanted to go into the maze so he can't find me anymore. So when I turn 18, I get my vast...
let's just try to connect these universes.
Yes. Well, she's already a serial killer, so she's already burned down Caligari Carnival.
Yeah, and they're part of this mysterious organization. I mean, she does like to read.
Oh no!
Which is a prerequisite.
Who else has red hair in Series of Unfortunate Events? I want to say Tuesday does?
Does Carmelita Spatz?
Wednesday?
No, okay, no. Carmelita Spatz has black hair.
Oh wait, I thought Kit Snicket had red-ish hair.
Maybe.
It's been years.
It's the baby. It's baby bitch.
Oh no. I guess that would be thinking of it that way. That actually makes sense because of how like weird the timeline is with technology. How weird it is for Percy Jackson and technology.
That's true.
Okay, we are like way off topic. I am so sorry.
Okay, yeah, we're just trying to make headcanon. They're not accurate, but by all means, you folks out there, you can write your fan fiction. I'm not gonna. I don't know how to do it, but I trust your abilities.
I feel like if they were to meet, I feel like Percy would get along with maybe Cloud. Actually, probably with Sunny the most. Annabeth would obviously get along with Violet just fine.
Oh yeah, they'd be the best buds. They would immediately be inventing stuff. Oh yeah, and then Tyson, throw that into the mix. They would be like building all sorts of really cool stuff.
And even like Violet wouldn't be creeped out by Tyson. She's like, oh, you poor man. I love you.
Yeah, it's true.
I knew a man with hooks for hands.
Actually, no. Oh my god, what if like Tyson like thinks it's really cute that Sunny's biting on a bunch of stuff? Oh, they're friends. Oh no, wait, no. She'd be friends with Grover because Grover likes to just eat tin cans and stuff.
Yes, she'd make a bunch of like tin can concoctions.
Oh, that's adorable. Okay, someone has to write this now because this is an adorable crossover.
Okay, wait, who would Klaus hang out with? I feel like he'd accidentally be paired with Clarice.
And then he'd be real scared. He's like, "You're scary but pretty." That's what he would say to Clarice.
Or actually, he'd probably hang out with Chiron. So, you read a lot of books? Yes. Yeah.
Speaking of grandpa sweaters, they'd be like, "So where do you get your sweaters?"
Oh my god, yeah, and Klaus would start like rambling off different horses from different books he's read.
It's true, yeah. All right, well now that we've sorted that out, how did we get here?
How did it come to this?
Yeah, I have no idea what's going on with Rachel's parents because she really hasn't said anything. Like, truly, Percy brings it up and she completely ignores the subject. So there's like no engagement there. There isn't even a little bit of a hint of like a beginning of a conversation. She just completely cuts it off and doesn't say anything. So I don't remember much of what else has been said or implied about her parents other than something bad happened. So either they've like disowned her in some way or they're dead. Those are the two options, I think.
Yes, or they're both dead in a mysterious fire, or they're just really rich and don't have time for her. Who knows?
Yeah.
Or they're just abusive and she just does not want to be around them. Who knows? There's a lot of things.
Yeah. It's not happy, that's for sure.
No.
That's kind of what she's indicated.
But then we have also with Annabeth, where Annabeth is just angry, and right now all she wants to do is just be alone, because that's the best thing you want to do when you're in a creepy
she's
maze.
So sulky.
Yeah. She's like brooding. She should hang out with Bruce Wayne.
She just disappears into the darkness.
I am the night. Guess what happens, B? Guess what happens in this chapter? Percy Jackson falls asleep.
And he has a dream. Finally, the dreams are back. It's weird, because I almost criticized them as being in every chapter. And then when we had one where it wasn't there, I was like, I kind of missed them. Because they help with a lot of exposition.
They're in every other chapter now.
Yeah. So I kind of like when they show up.
Oh, wait, we forgot one important thing about this chapter already. Oh, man.
What?
At the beginning of this chapter, they had the other demigod with them. And he, like, skadoodles.
Oh, right. I forgot about him because he disappeared immediately.
Yes, I totally remembered, like, right now, like, wait, there's something we're missing.
Well, he's like gone almost right away.
Yes, but pretty much Percy Jackson shows him, I think it's like Ethan Nakamura.
Ethan from the Hermes cabin who was unclaimed.
They even asked him what happened to his eye, and he didn't want to answer. Good job, Annabeth.
Maybe if you see someone with an eye patch, don't go, what happened to your eye? That's like walking up to Tyson and being like, what happened to your eye?
That's like Annabeth going up to a bunch of people like hooks for hands and asking, hey, you guys want to do some finger painting? Oh.
Yeah, no, she's pretty insensitive sometimes. Maybe not the best thing to ask about. So he's pretty well convinced that their plans aren't going to work. And so he just kind of
You're all
abandons them.
doomed. Doomed.
Yeah, sorry. I thought he was going to like maybe be more involved in like the group because they did name him and stuff. So I'm like, oh, maybe he's like a part of their team now. And then he escapes and then immediately was like, well, thanks for helping me. And I agree that they did, try to make me fight to the death, but,
I think the most important part about this is that Percy Jackson shows mercy to an enemy, quote unquote.
Is he an enemy? Oh, well, I mean, yeah, in the when they're fighting in the last chapter, yeah.
Well, he shows him mercy that way, but also letting him escape and not just straight up killing him, but also keeping him alive after that whole chaos.
Yeah, I mean, there would have been no benefit to killing him after that, because it's like, he's not really even on Luke's allegiance either at this point, right? Because he's running away from them.
But keep in mind, B, Rick Riordan had to put in the effort to write a first name and a last name. Do you know how much effort that is?
A lot of effort.
A lot of effort.
A lot of effort. And as we've learned with Rachel Elizabeth Dare, he might come back.
Yeah. If you get 3 names, you definitely know they're coming back. Because that's 3 times the effort. I'm sure Rick Riordan has a hard time and super lazy to put on pants, but putting on like 3 pairs of pants, man, that takes some effort.
I like how Ethan is kind of mad that he didn't kill him. He said, you shouldn't have spared me, Jackson. Mercy has no place in this war. It's like that scene in Forrest Gump.
I was about to say that, be with Lieutenant Dan, where he's like, oh, my father, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, my great-great-grandfather all died in wars. I was supposed to die in a war.
Yeah, exactly. I have that feeling as well from him. And then he just runs away. So that's cool, I guess.
It's a little detail that we
Ethan.
forgot about, but I think it might be important.
He's pretty forgettable. You see him for like 2 seconds.
He's a red shirt. Yeah, so Percy Jackson has his dream. Sorry to derail again, but Percy Jackson has his dream, and it's a little weird, this dream, because it's not... It's cool, but also this is the first time Kronos is like, oh, hey, Percy, so here's another vision.
Yeah, Kronos seems like a being instead of just like a disembodied voice.
He actually has a projectile voice, which is kind of creepy.
It seemed almost physical now, as if it were speaking from a real body instead of whatever he'd been in his chopped up condition. I guess he's growing stronger is what that's supposed to indicate, that Kronos is somehow reforming himself.
Well, we are in the penultimate book, B. Something has to happen.
Wow, how'd we get here already?
B, it's almost as if we've been doing this podcast for a year and a half.
Yeah, it's true.
But it's Boomy is just like, oh, Percy Jackson, you're my friend now, I guess. You kind of helped me with something, because you are too stupid to realize that I can look into your dreams and know where you are.
Yep.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And he's like, Percy Jackson, I'm going to show you your friends. And they cuts a horrible agony of Tyson and Grover.
So we get an update on Tyson and Grover. Yeah, we kind of all forget about them a little bit because they're like, oh yeah, I guess they're off on their pan quest.
Once again, empathy link seems kind of useless.
Oh yeah, there's also the empathy link thing where I guess if something happened to Grover, then Percy would already be dead.
Well, B, if Grover was dead, Percy would become a sea cucumber.
Yeah, exactly. Or whatever, yeah, he'd be like trapped inside of his mind forever because his empathy... I don't know. I don't exactly know what happens when someone with an empathy link, one of them dies. We haven't really discussed the logistics of it, but something would have happened. I think Percy would have known.
Well, yeah, he would have been dead.
Yeah, the empathy link seems so much stronger in Sea of Monsters, you know what I mean? Like, he was having literal visions of what was happening with the Cyclops on the island, but then now it's not as strong. He doesn't, like, have regular visions about Tyson.
Why have it in the first place? Because they could have just dissolved it, and all the visions Percy's gotten has been in the dreams. It's almost, like, useless unless, Rick Riordan is setting it up for this big old thing, because you have that danger, because Grover's kind of like a weakling. So if Grover dies, Percy dies, or other way around. And I guess it's supposed to be tension, but it doesn't quite work all that well.
Yeah, I guess. It just doesn't fully make sense to me.
No, it doesn't make sense to me.
Did you notice that, right? Like that in Sea of Monsters, it was like a very
It was a plot
visceral
point.
connection. Like, yeah, like he was viewing remotely what was happening to Tyson all of the time, sort of like what happens in this dream. But Tyson and him have been separated for a while now in the book, and he doesn't have active dreams like that as much as he did in Sea of Monsters.
No, and it's weird because I think the last time they used it, if I'm remembering this correctly, is in the last book when they have Dr. Thorne and Percy Jackson's trying to call for help at the beginning of the book. I think that's the last time that we've seen that. Actually, he's used it.
Yeah, it seems to just be used whenever it's convenient and then not be so helpful whenever it's convenient. So it's kind of like whatever.
Wouldn't it also work like if this happens, like going back, we're just off the rails, but I want to talk about this, is that wouldn't Percy Jackson want to talk to Grover like all the time, like getting like what's ups pretty much on like what's happening at Camp Half-Blood during the year?
Yeah, just checking in on him even if it wasn't serious. Yeah, I could see what you mean. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we're missing something and there's a reason why the empathy link doesn't function like that, or
because no one wants you to see. But it seems like it works just fine in Sea of Monsters. That's the problem. You have to use that. That's the precedent. That book.
Yeah, that's like how they established how it worked, and then now it doesn't seem to work the same way. But they never like explain why there's a difference.
Nope. But here, Grover and Tyson are in terrible danger because a gigantic snake-like creature is trying to eat them.
Yeah, I think they're fine. Again, like I said, the empathy link, something would have happened to Percy if something happened to Tyson. And it kind of leaves on a cliffhanger, but it indicates that they had some plans to escape. Because, yeah, then Grover begins to play with his reed pipes and stalactites rain down from the ceiling.
Reed pipes and stalactites? That sounds like a kick-ass band.
Yeah, a real fantasy band. But yeah, I think that's how Grover, I guess, helps Tyson escape. I mean, we don't know what is exactly happening with Tyson because, again, no empathy link, there's no guarantee he's okay, but I think they're like in danger but not in mortal danger because I think they're still alive.
Percy Jackson's also gullible because who is showing him these visions?
Kronos, yeah, so it's like his benefit to like freak him out. Like, yeah, he cuts off just as it seems like Grover is doing something to save them, so like maybe a second later than they do, you know, crush the snake and they escape, but like it's for the benefit of Kronos to make Percy all stressed out that something's happening to his friends. He even says, like, oh, your friends who you abandoned. Again, not what happened. Grover and Tyson insist on going in the other direction. They could have stayed with them. You know what I mean?
They could have, but here's the thing I was thinking about this week. Percy Jackson, how many people are on his team right now?
3?
Yeah. Well, what is the magic number? 3? It's as if the universe is trying to correct the wrong of having too many people on a quest.
Oh, yeah. We talked about that in the beginning of the book. I forgot about that. Yeah, Chiron is like, don't bring so many people. It's bad.
Yeah.
And they should have listened, but alas.
But now they're back to 3 people because a 3 people dynamic is the best way because they got Rachel. And
because it's a magic number.
Yes. Also, that's how you actually, you know, you get your 3 keys and you open up the gate, and that's how you get into Ready Player One.
Yeah. So I guess I don't know. Do you think it's intentional that it gets whittled down to 3 and then they seem to be doing better? It feels that way to some extent. I mean, Tyson and Grover are 2, so is that bad luck also?
I think we've already established before that, you know, Rick Riordan is an outliner. Is that I feel like that seems like a deliberate thing. Is that you make this because he already put it in the book that you're conscious about the number 3, and now you have Percy Jackson as Annabeth, Rachel, and Percy, and you have Grover and Tyson. If maybe there might be 6 people, you split those.
Well, if only Tyson and Grover run into Ethan or something.
Yeah, that could make sense too. Who knows? Because they find out that Ethan was the one. It wasn't Nico who they found.
Yeah, how is Ethan going to get out of the friggin' maze just wandering by himself? Like, that's not going to happen.
Remember the milkman?
Yeah, no, he's going to end up like the milkman faux show. He's going to rot away into a skeleton. Like, no way is this guy. Also, I mean, no offense, he has an eye patch, so he was really lacking some depth perception here. So just the idea of him escaping the labyrinth on his own, not very likely.
Well, he's more likely like he's going to turn the corner and he's going to smack his head against the wall because of no depth
and then just
perception.
Pass out and then just and just rot into a skeleton until he's found by either Tyson or Grover. That's my headcanon about what happened.
Man, we're really dark today.
Yeah, I mean, like, why would you just run away like that? You know you're not going to survive in the labyrinth. That's the whole point of the labyrinth. Yeah, the only reason that the only reason that Percy and Annabeth are doing so well is because they have Rachel, but Ethan doesn't have anybody.
Nope, he's going to become a spooky skeleton. And you know what? For his last trick, he's going to die.
Yeah, and then I guess, I don't know, Minos is going to summon him from the depths of the underworld.
So what ends up happening is they wake up the next morning, or what they think is the morning, and they pretty much, I think the joke is pretty much they like walk 2 feet and they're already in.
And then there's the workshop, which is kind of funny in a way that they like camp out, and then Rachel's like, well, it's right there, so.
I love this part because they assume that the oldest part of the labyrinth is going to be the oldest part. Nope, it's super futuristic. It is future AF. It's like steampunk, or it's steampunk and cyberpunk.
Yeah, with fluorescent lighting. They say that it looks like what Percy would imagine like the inside of a spaceship to look like, I think is his phrasing. Oh, I just realized, never realized what this meant when Percy said it, but now I realize it. When he says so much for ancient architecture, when he notices that the architecture looks new near Daedalus's workshop, Annabeth scowls, and that's because she'd been looking for older architecture to try and find Daedalus's workshop. That was like the hint, like, oh, this seems to be the older part, so we must go this way. So she was completely operating on the wrong assumption, so he's just sort of like, yeah, well, Rachel found it, and you were wrong on every level. So she must have been really mad about that. I didn't understand why she scowled before. Now I do. I thought she was just scowling because she's been in a generally bad mood, but I get it now.
Everything's Rachel's fault. The assassination of John F. Kennedy, that's her fault. Global warming, that's definitely Rachel's fault.
Yep, definitely.
All the terrible things in the world is Rachel Elizabeth Dare's fault. Though it's funny because this is supposed to be Annabeth's quest, and she has failed on every level. Percy Jackson, once again, has hijacked this quest. He's now the leader again.
Yeah, that's true. It is Annabeth's quest, huh? She's sure done a pretty bad job of it, I have to say. Not to, like, insult her. We've been really roasting Annabeth, but she's had a pretty bad mood and she hasn't done great with her quest. The only thing she's really been helpful with lately is giving the vague hint to Percy on how to, like, beat that guy in the arena. That was about it.
It's weird as if Rick Riordan wants to make, like, an arc for Annabeth or something of being a less terrible person and not jumping to conclusions.
Yeah. I hope that there's some character growth.
And maybe it has to do with her hubris. What?
Yeah, she sure got that hummus.
Yeah,
she's got all the kinds of hummus. She's got the roasted red pepper hummus. She's got the edamame hummus. She's got the lemon pepper hummus.
You're making me sick, B. I'm gonna go
I know
get
you hate hummus.
I hate hummus. I hate it. I like yogurt and I like salsa.
I mean, those are good, but
I'll put them together and make yogurt salsa.
I mean, I've had yogurt with chutney before. That's pretty good. I had that last night on some lamb chops. You hear that, Grover?
You monster. B, you monster.
It's true. They were delicious.
Little lamb.
Maybe I've been the sea of monsters all along. All right.
Oh my god, B is a cyclops. I should have known the last time I hung over.
Yeah, and my face was kind of blurry.
Yeah, I wasn't paying attention to your face, B.
Yeah, you were too distracted by, I don't know, riffing on Halloween Town.
I feel like I'm going to come over next time and you're going to be like, hey, I just met a new friend. Their name's Rachel Elizabeth Dare. Kind of weird. They have the same name as this character. Oh, good God. Are we in Sea of Monsters? Help me.
I mean, she's based in New York. Who knows?
Oh, yes. I'm sure we'll bump into plenty of Rachel Elizabeth Dares. Especially the serial killer kind, because I feel like next time I come over, I'm going to end up mugged or dead.
This new season of Mindhunter, Rachel Elizabeth Dare.
Okay, someone needs to making a murderer, making a Rachel Elizabeth Dare. We need a poster.
Yeah, like edit it and stuff.
Yeah.
Like all black and white with like the stringed instruments and everything.
Or the whole joke is like how they have a Mindhunter, they're opening up like the cassette tape. That should be like our intro of doing like Mindhunter that way, of us doing our podcasting equipment, and then they just have the flashes. Yeah, but it's
just us like plugging in our mics. It takes 2 seconds.
Every time that you're plugging something in, you just see another picture of Rachel Elizabeth Dare. That was great. Oh man, we are so off topic today, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. We've been watching too much Mindhunter. I think it's ruined our brains.
Yes. Every time I see someone now, I'm like, I bet I can profile that person. I can come up with a serial killer criteria. Kinda what ends up happening is they walk into the workshop. It looks really nice. Everyone would be really impressed with it. Oh no, Quintus is there. Ooh-wee-oo. I wonder why he's there.
Ooh-wee-oo, you look just like Daedalus. No, not enough. Yeah, not enough syllables for that one. But anyway, he's not Quintus, actually. Well, he is, but it's
he's
like
old man Jenkins.
Do you know what this is? This is very much the The Star Wars thing, I know, surprise, I'm the one making the Star Wars reference, but like, it's just like, what did you do to my father? I am your father. It's like, what did you do to Daedalus? I am Daedalus. You know, one of those kind of moves. The old switcheroo.
No, you silly boy. I am Daedalus. Wait, Daedalus is old and totally dead. I could be a robot, can't I? Beep boop, beep boop.
Yeah, he doesn't look like a robot.
And Percy Jackson's like, okay, smart guy, what is your opinion on the number 2? It's a number. Yeah, he's a robot.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the whole point is that he doesn't seem robotic because they even the idea is that Daedalus is such an amazing inventor and engineer that it's seamless that he's a robot. Like you can't tell. Like they don't even believe him, and then he like opens up a panel on his arm and they see all these like wires and stuff, and they're like, "Oh right, okay." So I guess
Yes,
you
you
are
could
a
be a
robot,
robot.
but it's not. They don't believe him at first, so that's probably why the foreshadowing was kind of difficult to figure out because the whole idea is like it's not obvious. Like, oh yeah, we met Quintus. He sure seemed sort of robotic or whatever. Like there weren't any obvious signs that he wasn't moving like a
No, there
human.
wasn't any description about this of like any of that, which I like
It's
about
like
that.
I'm thinking back to, you know, before we knew that Tyson was a Cyclops, where like there were descriptions of him where it's like, oh, I can't make out what's going on with his face. Like there were like hints that he was a Cyclops before he found out, but there weren't like as many like physical hints as to what Quintus is. He seems suspicious, but the literal thing of him being a robot who's actually Daedalus, that wasn't necessarily laid out as clearly as it could have been.
What makes a good twist is when you have things that you're not expecting or it's like misdirection. If it was like, and Quintus walked robotically and he was really afraid of magnets for some weird reason and he didn't eat. It's cool to have like the plot twists like this where you do have subtle hints. Like I think the prime example, a good example of this too, oh my god, surprise, surprise, with Harry Potter is with Professor Lupin being a werewolf. I'm spoiling everything today, so I'll just keep going with this.
Everyone knows he's a werewolf.
Yeah. Well, yeah, everyone knows he's a werewolf, but the way they have it in the book, like if you realize you point to the signs, you realize, oh, he could be a werewolf. Like he has specific days where he's sick, and you don't really quite understand that until you see him turn into a flippin' werewolf. And they even have the foreshadowing when Snape's doing his class talking about werewolves because he wants to expose Lupin.
I feel like even the Lupin thing has more foreshadowing than the Quintus thing. Do you know what I mean? Because they're like, they research werewolves and they're like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, well, the whole point of Quintus, I think, is that he seems suspicious and they're seeing him as suspicious for maybe some of the wrong reasons. And a lot of why he seemed so cagey was because he was actually Daedalus. But there wasn't like a hint like, oh yeah, he seems like a robot, or like, oh yeah, he seems like Daedalus because he really loves to invent. Like even his like personality traits are different. So I don't know.
Or maybe it's a last minute thing by combining them. I don't really know about that, but I do appreciate the twist in this because it's not out of the norm because they've already established the legwork of before this with the visions about the robot and putting your soul in a robot, and also the thing with Minos with the stuff with the robot. It's all there. It's all pretty much in this perfect sandwich. You just take a big old bite and you're just like yum yum yum. And I like this, except Daedalus is kind of a jerk. Like hardcore, because he hates everybody. He just wants for himself. He's also given the string of Ariadne to Luke already, so everything is lost.
Yeah, so does he give him the string, or does like Luke just take it and he's like, ah, whatever? But
No,
he
he
even
gave
like
it to
tells
them.
him, he tells him that having a mortal is more helpful than having the string. So like, he doesn't want to listen, I guess.
Well, he likes the idea of like objectivity. Like he likes
Yeah,
something to hold.
having a magical
Ooh.
object, and I guess he doesn't want to work with a mortal for some reason. Oh, I wanted to point out that when they walk into the workshop, there's like a window that it's like always changing what's out the window, but it's always something high up. That's what,
the
like,
Garden of
Quintus
the
says.
Gods.
And they're the Garden of the Gods. Did you know I've been to Garden of the Gods?
Have you in
I
Colorado
have,
Springs?
because that Colorado Springs is where the International Firefighters Memorial is. So I've been to Colorado Springs and I've been to Garden of the Gods. It's really cool, and I felt
Did you fall into a labyrinth?
I didn't fall into the labyrinth, but I thought it was really cool that they were referencing a place that I've been to before. A lot of times they reference like memorials and like national landmarks and things like that I haven't been to, but I've actually been to Garden of the Gods before. I thought it was a cool setting choice.
I'm sure what happens when like Rick Riordan picks like a setting choice like this is he's either been there recently or he just thinks it's a cool setting. And I like that because
Well, I'm sure as soon as he heard the name of that one, he was like, well, we gotta do this one.
I like the set piece they have because it's super creative with You have like this glass ceiling. It's always changing. Again, it has like that mystical element of it because once again they're underground, so you don't get the space madness of just being in complete darkness all day. And it shows how like futuristic-y it is. And once again, Daedalus is a jerk. Luke had only come there hours prior, so I guess he like walked right past them. They're all just sleeping.
Yeah, they just missed him basically.
But the worst part about this is that Kelly the Ampusa is here, as well as a couple Lestragonians.
So tell me if you think that I'm being irrational, but I this kind of doesn't make sense to me. Kelly was so hard to kill at first, and then she doesn't actually die. She just becomes like this puff of smoke and then immediately rematerializes or whatever after Percy thinks that he killed her. But in this, Annabeth just stabs her in the back and then she disappears.
So, in video game speak, this is called a cooldown. Kelly had to have a cooldown on her special ability where she can disappear. No, I think it's supposed to be a setup and payoff at the beginning of it. Percy Jackson understands her trick, and because she was surprised by Annabeth, who snuck up behind her and stabbed her, though I wish it was Rachel that did this, because then it would come full circle. I feel like it would have been like poetry, it rhymes. How she was trying to kill Percy and Rachel being there and Kelly doesn't put two and two together. I feel like that would have been much better than Annabeth stabbing her.
I don't know. I mean, because she hasn't demonstrated herself as a good fighter, though. That wouldn't have necessarily made sense.
So Kelly dies, and then they take care of the Lestragonians, but guess what? They have sad emo boy Nico here, and guess who's with them? Minos.
Minos. And, like, he's completely tricked, which was pretty frustrating because, like, dude, you should have known that Minos did not have Percy's best interest at heart, but he's like, oh, I thought you were in trouble, and that's why I came in. It's like, why would you believe Minos? He's an evil ghost king. Excuse me?
No, I think Evil Ghost King works really well. I think that's a good thing you put on your resume. So, Mr. Minos, can I call you Mr. Minos? Yeah. So it says here in your resume that you're an evil ghost king. Yeah, that's about right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Says like you like fishing and plotting to kill Daedalus. Yeah, well, we can hire you at Applebee's.
I'm sorry, but imagine if you went to Applebee's and then Minos came to your table. He's like, I'll be your server today. And he has like all the flair, but they're like all really like emo stuff from Hot Topic because that's the only stuff that he likes.
But I like they have the joke. It's like the power is yours, Nico. And how Nico is so emo, he controls the god of ghosts or the king of ghosts.
Yeah, then he's like, oh, I'm the king of ghosts. He's like, no, but I'm the king of ghosts. It's like a real emo off what's happening in this scene.
It's funny because you have Minos in the scene who's like evil guy monologuing, which is hilarious. And then he's like, I'm going to kill you, Daedalus. And Daedalus is like, I'm already a robot. You can't really kill me all that much. I guess I'll go into another body. But then Nico's like, hey, you're stealing my spotlight. But pretty much what ends up happening is Nico summons up like the crevasse and he sucks Minos back into the underworld and they get rid of the Lestragonians and Kelly's dead. And of course, terrible things start to happen because the labyrinth start to break down a little bit. They have to get out of there.
Well, they're just escaping because they put on their new and improved wings, now not made with wax.
Yes, because that's the other thing that's happening is that Rachel's there putting on the wings, making sure that they can get out of there because the whole place is coming down. Though I like the description that they gave to like Daedalus when he's fighting, he's helping them kill the Lestragonians, and they showed like he's all like beaten up, like he has like bits of him are like gone.
Oh yeah, he's like completely falling apart.
Yeah, this would be a cool scene as like a live action set piece. How he looks and how he's bleeding like gold blood, kind of like Icar, but not really. It's just god oil, I guess.
He was cut in 100 pieces, but he was bleeding golden oil instead of blood. He found his sword and was using part of a smashed table as a shield against the giants. I won't leave Mrs. O'Leary, he said, go. Which, again, pretty adorable. Mrs. O'Leary is a giant dog, so she's a little scary sometimes, but it's kind of sweet that he wants to protect the big
boofer.
Orker. Yeah, big boofer, or like...
Boof.
Yeah, because, what is it again? There's like Arfers.
There's Arfers, Barkers, Boofers. Then you have your doggos, and Daedalus
your
wants to give him
you
got your doggos and your puppos, and Daedalus wants to give him a smacko and a snacko. Oh my
and
god.
A boopo.
I feel like people listening to us like I think Zack and B have had strokes simultaneously.
Yeah, they're just fully having episodes. But no, we're just getting excited about dogs. So yeah, I thought that was like a big Hagrid energy when he's like, I have to save Mrs. O'Leary. Like, the impulse to save a giant dog.
How Miss O'Leary is his only friend for thousands of years.
Yeah, that's really sad. Aw.
Do you feel like with Daedalus, is he a tragic character? Because he's pretty much, if you look at this chapter, Percy Jackson has lost the quest. There's no hope unless he can get that string. And even then, Daedalus has already given him the keys of like using Immortal, even though Luke might not listen. He might, who knows? So how do you feel about that?
I feel like it's going to somehow work out. I don't think that any of these books has ever ended on a 100% negative note of like him failing a quest, so I don't see that happening. I could see last minute him somehow getting the string from Luke or something like that. I don't exactly know what's going to happen. This is the second to last book, so there's still a lot to get through, and I don't think Luke is going to die just yet. I do think he's probably going to eventually die in the next book. That seems to be the trajectory of it. And I think that obviously Kronos is going to continue to gain power until the next book when like there's probably going to be some sort of big boss fight thing.
Same as with like Daedalus, do you think he's like a tragic character, should be pitied, or I feel like he's one of those characters that is very fluid.
He's like a mixed bag, because in some ways I like get that he's trying to hide from death, but he did do something pretty bad, which was like kill his nephew. Or whatever, like let his nephew die. It's ambiguous, but he did something pretty bad. That's why he has the mark that keeps appearing on his neck regardless of what body he inhabits. Yeah, he's not done some pretty great stuff. He's taken the side of Luke mainly just because it benefits him. He's like, oh, well, Kronos has promised me that he'll like get rid of Hades and then I'll rule over the underworld and like we'll cast Minos into Tartarus so he can't ever hunt for me again. Like, it's just all like a selfish sort of motivation for why he's starting to take Luke's side, or like not quite Luke's side. Well, he even says like he's only really loyal to himself, but he's helping Luke because it benefits him, and that's like pretty selfish. So I definitely don't respect him that much for those kinds of choices. It seems like a lot of what he does is based out of like selfish self-preservation.
I think that's what makes Daedalus such an interesting character. Is like, yes, he's very selfish, and we haven't really had like a super selfish character since Ares. But then again, Ares is just more arrogant. But you have this character like he plays both sides, but also it's hard because you understand where he's coming from. Like, it was his mistake that Icarus died, even though he warned Icarus. Though it's not really his fault. But then the same thing with like killing his nephew. Like, he didn't want to do that, but he had to.
That was straight up his fault. Let's be real.
Okay, I was saying that is his fault.
He done pushed him.
Well, he did push him, and then he also killed Minos, which, fair enough, Minos is just like, yeah, you killed me, you jerk. You big old jerk pants.
Yeah, I mean, what's their names also helped him, so there's that.
Well, yes, there's that, and there's a lot of, out of all of them, I think so far, Quintus / Daedalus has been the more interesting character of this book. Same as how like Thalia was the most interesting part of Titan's Curse. Tyson was for Sea of Monsters, and Percy Jackson, I guess, for the Lightning Thief. Actually, I think Luke was more interesting. I hate to say. But it's an interesting trend.
Yeah, well, I think Luke has somewhat, like, he has more of at least a motivation. I think Luke has done more overtly terrible things, but he also sort of has, like, a belief system that I can kind of relate to. Like, I understand why he thinks it's unfair that the gods act the way they do. Well, I think Daedalus is mostly just acting out of selfishness. He doesn't really have one unifying.
He has no goal. He has no manifesto.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not that he like has anything against the gods or whatever. He just wants to protect himself because he did something wrong and he wants to like avoid consequences. So I really don't think he's as much of a gray figure as like he thinks he is. He's mainly just kind of a bad person. Like he's just avoiding consequences. Yeah, like that's his whole personality. He hid in the labyrinth for years just so he could avoid death, so he could avoid like the inherent results of his sort of selfish behavior.
Now, do you think Daedalus could be redeemed in any way? Because I feel like not really, unless he does something selfless.
I don't know about redeemed, but like he could help in some way. It seems like right now he's still acting pretty selfishly. Even the fighting that he's doing with Kelly and the Laestrygonians and all that stuff, that's like self-preservation. That's not necessarily because he's trying to just help Percy and his friends. So he's not really doing anything just out of the kindness of his heart.
Oh, so it's me, myself, and I? That is his whole character motivation, and I love it. All right, do I hate it?
Yeah, I mean, even like the whole thing about him being inside a freaking robot has to do with self-preservation. Like, he doesn't want to die. He doesn't want to, like, face any consequences.
Yes, and I think that's what makes him an interesting character. And who knows, maybe this is his last stand, maybe he'll survive, but we won't know because this chapter is ended. What is the name of the next chapter, B?
Okay. Oh, no. The name of the next chapter is Chapter 16, I Open a Coffin.
Oh, no.
I have a feeling. What's in that coffin?
What's your feeling?
I think it's Kronos. And that's no good. He's a bad guy.
Do you think he's going to open up and say, surprise, female dog?
Yeah, I bet you thought you saw the last of me. Yeah, that's,
Wait, so is Percy Jackson going to punch a skeleton in the face?
Imagine if that's how the book series ended. He just punched a skeleton and it shattered into 1,000 pieces. It's like, oh yeah, that was Kronos. You beat him. We thought this would be more difficult.
Yeah, or like Kronos like comes down, it's like a spooky like stop motion animation, and all of a sudden Miss O'Leary comes, starts eating him because the joke is it's made out of bones, and he's just screaming. I'd love this actually, and just Luke's there horrified. Do you think he's going to be opening up that coffin, or do you think there's?
I mean, it has to be, right? I mean, there's other coffins, I guess. For some reason, I keep thinking it's going to be Kronos, but they're with Nico now, so there's that whole thing of him being like lording over the dead. So I don't know if Nico's going to be involved in some way. Are they going to try to like summon a different dead person?
Oh, do you think he like sleeps in a coffin now?
Well, he's not a vampire.
Well, he's emo enough to sleep in a coffin.
I don't know. I think it's Kronos, but I could be wrong. The Kronos has been in a golden sarcophagus or whatever. Is a sarcophagus the same as a coffin?
Yes.
An important distinction.
I feel like, yes, historically.
It's like a coffin, but like more ornate.
Well, no, B, it's a coffin, but more extra.
Exactly. Ornate and extra are the same. You know, like in the thesaurus, when you look up ornate and it says next to it, also known as extra.
It's the same as with like the pyramids. They're just tombs, but just super, super compensating for something.
Yeah, it's true. It's the same idea.
B, do you want to read some emails?
Yeah, I don't know who else it would be. Yeah, so we got a few emails this week. The first one is from Fran, who says, so I think this is explained more in Heroes of Olympus, but basically God DNA is not human DNA, which makes them unique. As such, a child of Aphrodite could date a child of Hephaestus, and it wouldn't be like dating someone who is related to them, as the godly DNA makes them separate. However, a child of Athena couldn't date another child of Athena because they share the same godly DNA. To help with being more comfortable about Percy and Annabeth, technically, Athena wasn't born, she sprung from Zeus's head. So, really, she has no real relation to anyone because she wasn't born. Hopefully this helps us clear this up a bit. Anyway, loving the podcast, let me know if you would be interested in this collaboration. So yeah, Fran also mentioned possibility of a collaboration. We'll get back to you on that.
To answer your question, I feel like we just need to get someone that just knows DNA and
who knows.
Would she get like a DNAologist? I don't know what they're called. Are they just biologists?
A genetic genealogist?
Thank you, a genealogist. They study wishes and how to beat a genie. Got it.
Yeah. I know the Julie Dixon Jackson is a host of a podcast about genealogy.
See, I would like that, but I feel like that half of the time I just be them putting a head against the wall, like, this makes no sense. Yeah.
Yeah, like just being like, wait, no, this is nonsense. Yeah, it's true. She's like, I know about human DNA.
I think the reason why we get this question a lot is because we keep talking about how creepy it is.
It's okay. Yeah, that's the thing is they might not be literally related, but just socially speaking, they're related. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's like, you know, if you date someone who's like, you know, your adoptive cousin, that they're still your cousin, even though they're not like related to you by blood. Do you know what I'm saying? That's like still kind of creepy.
Well, I feel like with this is that we're getting into a territory that we don't really want to talk about because there's like this weird stigma that when you have any book series, this is span the dawn of time or any fandom, is that there always has to be relationships. Yeah, we don't care about relationships in books because I'm sorry we have to break this illusion, but they're not real. So we don't need to think about things in like human terms in that way. If does that make sense, B? Of like we don't need to think about it in like flesh and blood sense. And
well, also like the plot, it's like kind of sweet, like the different like romantic relationships and stuff, but like they're not as important as like the friendship bonds that maybe the characters make or like the whatever.
Well, no, I don't even think about like the friendship bonds. I feel like what makes this series so interesting is the dynamic between being a demigod, having these powers, but also you have things with disabilities and how you can conquer that. I feel like that's kind of the core theme of Percy Jackson, not necessarily the relationship part. I mean,
Yeah, that's just icing. That's just like added stuff, but it's not necessarily that integral to the plot. Other than, I guess, I don't know, I think Percy and Annabeth, the way that they interact has a lot to do with whether or not they're into each other, and that influences the plot in that way. But in some ways, it feels like a distraction because Annabeth is acting, you know, like we've mentioned just in this episode, how both of them have like their own sort of weird petulant reactions to things because they're like they have a crush, you know.
yeah, I agree with you on that. If I wanted to use a source from this, from Rick Riordan, I don't remember if you remember reading this, but there was like this letter that Rick put out about the producers and asking them, hey, we want to age up these kids because we want to have more romance. And specifically, Rick Riordan said, please do not sex up my kids.
Yeah, he did say that. So yeah, it's like it's not an integral part necessarily to the plot. I think it's more interesting to analyze just Percy and Annabeth, how they relate to each other as demigods and the shared trauma they've gone through and their dynamic and all of that stuff. As to whether or not they want to date, it's not that important.
I think for us, like as fans, we just don't think it's important because really at the end of the day, we're talking about kids and the birds and the bees, and I want to stay as far away from that as humanly possible, actually immortally possible. I say we, keep saying mortal. I want to be immortal when I say we don't want to talk about that. We don't like talking about ships. Every time people bring up questions on ships, it's kind of like, oh man.
Well, because like that's just your own personal opinion too. Like how is that fun for anybody? Either you agree with like the ships or you don't, and then you're like, well, it doesn't matter. First of all, it's fictional, so you can be whatever you want it to be. There's fan fiction for all of those pairings if you care about them.
I feel like I might be coming off mean about this, but there's a lot of like books with relationships that I really enjoy, like in the King Killer Chronicles. That's actually kind of like an integral part of the story. Here, like you said before, it's a little bit like icing. They're kids, it's cute, but when you think about it more in-depthly, in like a godly sense, it gets kind of creepy, and then you get into like Lannister territory.
Right. If you extrapolate it to anything like a real human relationship. Yeah, I know. It's just, I don't know. Again, it's not even really something that I think about that much when I'm reading these books.
I think it's like sometimes when they'd have something where it's like, it's explicit in the text, like, oh, Annabeth kissed Percy. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cute. Okay, moving on to the more action parts, keep going. Even like with the musical, I think when we talked to Joe, he was talking about that he wanted it to be more about the friendship than the relationship.
Yeah. Because like any show that you're like, whatever, any piece of media that you consume, there's always going to be people who are shippers or whatever and get really excited about like the romantic relationships and they'll zero in on that. And I'm like happy if they find joy out of that or whatever. And that's like what they focus on. But that's definitely not the focus of these books. That's not like, the most important thing. Even the stuff between Annabeth and Percy and Rachel Elizabeth Dare and all that, I think that more just serves to like characterize the way that like young teenagers act and like their hormones being ridiculous and then like maybe making like not the most informed decisions and being kind of petulant and being kind of petty about dynamics and relationships. But people are that way about friends too when they're that age. They're just like, oh, well, you're spending too much time with this person, and they get jealous and whatever else. So it's like not even necessarily because like what does romance mean when you're like 16? Do you know what I'm saying? Like not that much.
So romance is like to a teenager, and I'm not going to put anyone on blast, but this is what my personal experience is that in high school, first you hug, then you hold hands, then you kiss, and then I think you get married afterwards, and then my cool music career and will make millions by the time I'm 21. It doesn't work like that. You think about like the short-term goals rather than the long term. And also you're feeling these experiences for the first time, like what love is and how you can be sad because you're just like...
And this is like also not to like diminish like the emotions that people feel at that age, but it's just sort of like to get that invested in like relationships when the characters are like so young and like it's just like there's so many other things going on.
See, there are some relationships that I think are okay, but again, they have to be explicit in the text. Like I think Aang Katara in The Last Airbender, it's set up and has a payoff, and that's cute and adorable. When you have like things that are like weird and vague, it's just hard to talk about.
I don't know. I mean, it does inform the text sometimes, like the stuff with Annabeth and her like still having a weird thing about Luke and whatever. But again, you could even just like chalk that up to like even if she was just friends with Luke and was really like loyal to him anyway because they used to know each other. Like again, the romantic thing doesn't even necessarily play the biggest part in that.
But even like stepping aside from that, let's just say for a moment that, okay, yeah, we like ships and stuff. Here's the thing. If I was a demigod and the person I was dating was a demigod, I don't think we would have kids because, one, both of us could be orphaned very easily for my child. But also, do you want to expose them to this world where they'll never feel safe? And you never want to have a sense of like calmness?
Yeah, that's also another thing. Wait, did we talk about this? What happens when two demigods have kids? Is that kid a demigod?
I'm sure it's a half demigod, a halfy god,
So what's a half demigod?
a quarter
What
demigod.
happens with that? Do you just then
it's
you're like only sort of magic?
You give a mouse a cookie. Once you get into that territory, it becomes more complicated, and I've never understood that because it's like as an adult or like someone like you see the danger, like we have all these magical powers. What if my kids have magical powers this way? What happens? I would never want to expose.
That is also the plot of Halloween Town.
Oh yeah, so this is actually. So what you're telling me is Kronos Calabar. Got it. They even start with a K.
Kronos, Calabar, same diff.
But I think this was a really good topical discussion. I really enjoy when we have things like this where we can talk about things that are a little different.
Yeah, I hope we don't get any more questions about ships because I just don't know how to answer them.
So I feel like in the future when we get questions about ships or like relationships, or like even with DNA, this has nothing to do with you, friend. This is just us setting a precedence. Like we're never gonna take a side on like what ship we like or what ship we hate.
Yeah, like which one should exist or which one is like more valid than the other. Because like that's just really up to you and what you enjoy and what you think works for the story and whatever.
It's like your favorite type of soup. Some people like clam chowder. Some people like tomato soup.
Mm-hmm.
I like all type of soup.
It's true. I'm a fan of soup.
Yeah, soup's good.
Anyway.
So we got an email. Hi, Zack and B. I'm the anonymous Erwin who sent some fan art of you and your pets about a year ago. Well, I have some more here. So here's some red. Also, I love the podcast. Please never stop making it. And please leave me anonymous. Erwin, I did leave you anonymous. Ooh.
Look at these drawings of us.
Do you want to describe them? Because I feel like the one for us is really adorable.
Well, you thought you had a man bun, but I'm pretty sure that that's Rosie.
That is Rosie. The first time I saw this from like a far distance, like the farther you go away from this bee, the more it looks like a man bun. I love it though.
Yes, it looks like a man bun. Yeah, no, that's Rosie on your head. And you're wearing Radio Camp Half-Blood shirts, and I'm wearing also Radio Camp Half-Blood shirt, and I have a little Pfeffernuss on my head, which is adorable. Unfortunately, Pfeffernuss does not live with me anymore. He lives with my ex, so he's living his own hedgehog life somewhere else. But I really like the fan art.
It's really adorable.
Little spiky buddy.
And then we had one of Rachel Elizabeth Dare. She, red hair, and she's caught red-handed.
She has blood all over her hands? Is that what's happening?
Yes, and it says, what? It's just paint.
Which is true, actually. She would say that.
Well, yeah, except that it's really sticky and smells like iron.
Mm-hmm.
B, do we get any other emails?
Yeah, we got a couple. One is from Liam, who says, "Hey, Zack and B, it's me, Liam, back with another random email. So the first time I listened to the Sea of Monsters, then the Titan's Curse, I noticed a little plot hole in the Sea of Monsters. First time they introduced Blackjack, the book said he was a she, and in the Titan's Curse it said that Blackjack was a boy. Did you notice this accidental gender swap? P.S. The whole putting your soul inside a robot thing that Daedalus' nephew came up with is giving me disturbing flashbacks to the story behind the horror game Five Nights at Freddy's, which involves the souls of murdered children being trapped inside robots as part of a twisted experiment. By the way, Zach, if you're looking for a creepy horror story, then the Five Nights at Freddy's story is the one for you." Yeah, so remember when that was a real popular game?
I remember when that was popular. I never actually played it.
I saw a couple of playthroughs. It's oof. Yeah, so right, it's like souls trapped in like Chuck E. Cheese-esque mechs, right?
It's funny because we talk about like Five Nights at Freddy's. People always think about the horror game. I keep thinking about the movie with our favorite adaptation of Percy Jackson with Chris Columbus directing. He's doing a Five Nights at Freddy's movie.
He is?
Yes.
Wow, way to like really miss the boat on that. It's been like 2 years since it's been really popular.
Well, but the funny thing is that there's a new movie called The Banana Splits. Remember that show? Or do you know about? There was a show in the
vaguely, but I didn't really watch it.
So there was a kids show in the 70s called The Banana Splits. It was a kids show. Well, someone got the rights to those characters and has made a Five Nights at Freddy's horror movie that just came out this week. It's funny and terrible and great. I love it. I'm going to talk about it later on the Film Cultist.
Oh yeah. So the plot hole. Did you notice the thing about blackjack?
Well, my explanation for this is a wizard did it.
A wizard did it. Yeah. I mean, or like, was it just that like Percy assumed that blackjack was a girl horse, and then blackjack spoke, and it was like, "Hey, boss," and then like realized that it was a boy horse? Is that what happened? I'm not entirely sure.
Or you know what I think would happened? It was a printing mistake where Rick Riordan thought it was one thing because it was just one line of dialogue, and then started writing the Titan's Curse. Like, I'll make him a boy. I feel like it was just something that slipped through the cracks.
Maybe. I don't. Yeah, because he thought of like the whole like gimmick of giving him like the funny boss of like, "Hey, boss, what's up?" Whatever, and then he thought that would be funny.
Yes.
Probably. It was probably something like that where he didn't think it all the way through because it was just like not a very important character.
It's one of those where if it's like so subtle, I feel like he didn't go back and like look at it. It's like in Star Wars, 1,000 generations, and then in the prequels, it's 1,000 years. What is it? A generation or a year? What's the difference? It's the same thing with like George Lucas. It's one of those wacky things. But Five Nights at Freddy, it's not really my cup of tea.
It pretty accurately sums up how creepy Chuck E. Cheese is, huh?
Yes, but also the funny thing is, there's a bunch of Five Nights at Freddy's books, and that blows my mind. Like actual pages,
wow,
chapter
when
books.
did those come out?
The game designer, the guy, I forget, I think like Scott something, he wanted to be a writer, so he started writing books. Apparently they're good. I've never read a single one, but I heard they're decent. So like Five Nights at Freddy's, check out all the books.
Wow, what a plot twist that is. I didn't know.
So we did get another email from Rebecca. Do you know how you said that some movies are so bad that they're good? Well, someone on the PGO fandom recently uncovered the original Lightning Thief script, and it's a masterpiece of terrible. Maybe we might we're going to save this. We're going to tuck this away. I'll leave a link down in the show notes for this to continue the email. It's like they took all the obnoxiously bad parts out and put in anything better in, leaving a flat, depressing movie. Oh no. You also mentioned you wish there was a Silence of the Lamb musical. Actually, there was. I saw it. It was pretty bad. There's a reason why no one knows about it. Well, I'll have you know that Silence of the Lamb is largely based off the serial killer Ed Gein. And there's an Ed Gein musical. Enjoy the weird side of the internet.
Why is there a musical for everything? There's a musical for everything.
B, there's a musical for everything. I love Evil Dead the musical. Ed Gein the musical, I don't know if I would watch it because I feel like it wouldn't be funny.
And there's a lampshade made of a person. It is a person and it's a lampshade.
Have you met my mother? I feel like there's like a song like going through the crypts, getting all the bodies.
Yeah. Yipes.
Actually,
wow, this is a really true crime heavy episode. Okay, so we got one more email from Elizabeth, who says, "Hey, Zack and B, it's been a while since I've emailed you, but I just wanted to thank you for helping me laugh when I really needed to. I started middle school this year, and it's been really stressful, and your podcast has helped me get through my homework and calm me down a bit. I've also been traveling a lot lately, and I love catching up on the podcast while sitting in my car. I love Battle of the Labyrinth, and I'm so excited to see what B will think of the books to come. I am also hoping you will do The Heroes of Olympus, because I am currently reading it, and I love it. Sorry for the long email. Keep staying mortal, Elizabeth." Yeah, we've said we're probably going to do Heroes of Olympus. Like most of the Rick Riordan books, we're probably going to eventually get to. We'll kind of cross that bridge when we come to it, like what order we're going to do, but we're going to get to most of them probably.
Yes, and I feel like when it comes to it, we might switch up our style, or we'll figure something out, because those are different beasts on themselves. And I think we'll be finished in March, or like in the springtime. So we'll figure that out.
Yeah, we'll see.
And we haven't even decided what order we're going to do them. So
yeah, we'll have to figure that out.
We'll get to that bridge once we burn it. I'll be on fire by the time we get to that bridge, but we'll figure it out. But it is so amazing that we can help you, especially when you're having a hard times. We love talking to people.
Middle school, if I recall,
middle school
real
was rough.
hard.
Oh man.
It was I don't mean to scare you, but that was a real rough time. So I guess it's going to only get better from here,
So your goal should be get to high school, and then you'll have a lot more fun. Middle school is a little harder because that's when people are starting to go through puberty. So everyone's insane. Your teachers don't like being there. And it is just a wild ride, man. Ooh. B, what is your most embarrassing middle school story?
I mean, I wore like the same Green Day sweatshirt like every day. So right there. I had a friend who would kick me in the shin with her Converse every day, but I was still her friend for some reason. That's not necessarily embarrassing as me just being like kind of a pushover. I don't know.
I have an embarrassing story. Oh man, I can't believe I'm telling this on the air, but we're doing this for you, Elizabeth. I once forgot to do a book report, B, and you know what? The first thing I did.
Oh no.
What do you think you would do as a sane child who hasn't done a book report and he's about to be called up?
Make something up. I don't know.
I pushed the fire alarm.
No. Oh no. Did it work?
No, it didn't. But we still had to evacuate the school. I said it was going to be embarrassing.
And did they figure out it was you?
My teacher literally saw me do it.
Oh no.
It was like almost like comedy.
Zach, no.
It's on my record somewhere because I had detention.
Wow. That's... By the way, fun fact, nothing gets put on your record when you're in middle school. That's fake.
Oh.
Yeah, there's no record of anything in middle school. So get in your fist fights now. Well, you still can't.
Oh no. But you don't tell that to the kids?
So you can't be tried as an adult. Yeah, all the parents are going to be sending us angry emails. Like, you just told my kid to get into a fist fight. I'm joking. Don't get into a fist fight. Don't do anything.
Well, if you're going to get into a fist fight not your teachers. They work too hard. And don't fist fight your kids. Go do wrestling or something.
Yeah, do an extracurricular or something to get rid of that pent-up anger. All that middle school anger.
Yes. But I think that's kind of the end of this episode, B.
Oh, yeah, wait, we got a iTunes review.
Oh.
Yesterday.
We did. I didn't even realize we got an iTunes review.
We sure did. It's like a pretty typical iTunes review, and that is asking us to do Heroes of Olympus. It's from Slytherin Love, who says, "Love this. I love this, but can you do Heroes of Olympus, please? It's my favorite one. So is the Kane Chronicles."
My answer to this is yes.
Probably. Yeah.
So
eventually.
So B, we got a special announcement. You ready for this?
Yeah, we do.
So, guys, get your calendars out. Okay.
Pull them out.
We'll wait. Even if you don't have, we'll wait for your phones to be pulled out too.
Your Palm Pilots.
Yes.
Etc.
Your Hamilton calendars, because I have
your Apple Watches. I don't know. What do kids have now?
Your Signal Flares.
Your Tamagotchis. No, that's nothing.
In October, B and I are going to go seeing The Lightning Thief, the musical, on Broadway.
On Broadway. Do.
Yes.
So, that'll be, hold on.
October 18th.
What is the, October 18th at 8 p.m. is the actual show. But during the day of the actual show.
So what B and I have decided to do for the whole day before the show is, because we're going to be in New York City on Broadway, we are going to be having a big meetup where we're going to be meeting our fans, other people that love Percy Jackson. I'm sure the moms of the people that like Percy Jackson. Who knows? It's everybody. Everyone can come.
Yeah. So just, obviously if you're listening to this, you probably generally listen to our show, so
you're invited.
Come and hang out with us and whatever. But it's going to be kind of open to any Lightning Thief, Percy Jackson fans, people who are maybe going to go see the musical that night or not. We're not going to be checking tickets. You could just be someone who wants to hang out for a little bit. There's definitely room for everybody. We're probably going to meet at Central Park. I'm going to figure out the details with that. I have an idea about a meeting place, and then possibly if it rains, we might migrate to a coffee shop or something.
Yes, and we'll set up a page about this, but tell your friends. If your friends like Percy Jackson, if you like Percy Jackson, for some reason, if you listen to a Percy Jackson podcast and you're this far in these episodes.
Yeah, how'd you get this far? Where are you? You're lost.
Yes, you're lost. Go back that way. Oh no, you've gone to the subway, a place that I have no clue which direction you're going. Bye. So we're going to be having a big meetup, and it's going to be super exciting, and I am so happy for this because I get to hang out with B in person. You'll be able to see us in the flesh and blood, but please do not stab us because we are flesh and we are blood.
Yeah, we will be in a public place, so if you do stab us, then people will see you, I guess. So yeah, it's gonna be really fun. Hopefully some cool people are gonna be there. We might have some merch things to hand out, depending on like a first come, first serve thing. Like we might have pins, we might have other cool things. So tell your friends.
We might have special guests.
Yeah, we're still in the works trying to figure out what's going to happen with that. Like, all the details will be on the Facebook event, and then we'll probably post that on the Twitter and the social medias in general. I'll probably retweet it and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, we're excited to see you guys, and we're excited to see the musical.
So that's going to be on October 18th, and that's going to be in the day. We'll have more stuff about it, but get hyped.
Yeah, probably in the afternoon. We'll figure it out.
The best part is get some tickets for that night, see Percy Jackson with us, and have a whole mystical, magical, mythical day.
It's going to be awesome.
Well, B, where can they find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at bkellygorman, and you can find me on Tumblr at twinpoetry.tumblr.com.
If you want to find me on Twitter, you can find me at Suda41, that's SUDA41. If you want to follow our show on Twitter, that's at halfblood_radio. If you want to email our show and send us more amazing messages, you can email us at radiocamphalfblood@gmail.com. We have a Patreon, so just go to patreon.com and type in Radio Camp Half-Blood and donate. You'll get episodes early. We're going to have a special episode on Be More Chill, hopefully soon. It should be dropping next week or the week after that. Otherwise, we're going to have some more bonus content coming soon. You get t-shirts at TeePublic, so go to www.teepublic.com. They always have sales. Buy a shirt, buy a sticker, buy a mug, who knows? All that stuff goes back to the show, helps us make our show as amazing as possible, and we hope to see you guys in New York in October. We're going to be doing a special episode. We're going to be talking about the musical. We might even talk to you guys directly and have an episode just for you guys for the meetup. And then we'll have a regular episode. We'll figure that out once we get there.
Yeah, a lot of fun musical and other stuff in the works. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited that
I'm so excited for this.
Again. Yeah,
yes.
It's gonna be hype.
Well, I'm Zach.
I'm B.
And let's keep staying immortal. See ya.
Bye, guys.